So as you are going through those minutes, you'll see it in the public comment. I have made contact with CPAC, and I'll be meeting with Ms. McDowell sometime soon. We just hadn't set a date yet. Are there any corrections needed or revisions to the minutes? All right, so if we can go ahead and take a vote on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we have approved the minutes. Okay, so just going down the agenda, updates and reports. So we're gonna go ahead and first introduce our new HRCA members. So if you are a new member, we have Miss Betty here. If you want to just say anything.
My name is Betty Council. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Tanya Rodriguez, I'm very honored to be here. Thank you.
My name is Nia Varana. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. And we're also going to take a moment to recognize our HRCA members who are leaving at this time. So I'll go ahead and open it up to our staff liaison, Ms. Nia Davis.
Hey y'all, I just wanted to take the time and say it has been an honor working with you all. I'm really sad to see y'all go, and I just wanted to give you a certificate of appreciation signed by Deborah and Keith. So I will pass those out to y'all.
And so we have Michael Carter who's leaving, and and Miss Sarah Williams, who's not here this evening, and also Christine, sorry. So for me, I just want to say real quick that your presence here was invaluable, and that, you know, you guys led with your heart, you spoke with bravery and courage, and we're really going to miss you.
We'll be watching.
Ms. Nia, before you go, we also just kind of going down, it has the staff. So just moving along the agenda, we have the staff liaison update.
Hi again. I will be brief. I just had 2 updates for you all. I know the commission has been working heavily with the minority business program, just providing y'all an update of some action we're doing. So Kimberly Archie, Rosanna, and 10 other Black businesses are currently in Charlotte right now. They're attending the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurs Summit. This is the premier conference for Black business owners, and it builds on the foundation and needs of innovators, creators, and the next generation of Black entrepreneurs. And so this is a really important education and capacity building component. And I didn't mention we have 2 members of the HRCA, new members of the HRCA who could not be here today. Danielle Martin is attending, so she'll be able to bring back some of that knowledge for the July meeting, as well as Isaiah Green. He is on the board of UNC Asheville. He's the youngest president at UNC Asheville, and he had a board meeting today. But he will also be attending the July meeting. In addition, the Office of Equity and Inclusion is interested in doing a movie screening for the community. It would be a discussion on a PBS documentary called Boss, The Black Experience in Business. And so this documentary emphasizes the often absent narrative of the experience of African Americans in business and entrepreneurship. And so we would love to partner with the HRCA in this community event, and so there'll be more details to come about that.
Okay, did anyone have any questions pertaining to just the staff update? All right, so we're just moving along. Now we're just gonna go into unfinished business. So as you guys know through the emails, we're gonna go ahead and vote on our rules of procedure. And before we do that, we would like to call up our new city attorney. And if you come up and just give us brief info.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, all the committee members, for taking the time to consider these. So we put these proposed rules of procedure together for you to give you a sense of generally what the rules are for similar committees of this kind of makeup. So give you a little bit of structure and help organize and process the information and the actions that you go through on a day-to-day basis. So I'm here to answer any questions that you have about those or discussion topics about anything in those proposed rules, but they generally are mirroring what City Council uses as their rules in the areas that's applicable to you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, quick question. So before this meeting started, we had a conversation about voting procedures. Later on in the agenda, we're going to be electing a chair and vice chair. And according to the current structure of the rules and procedures, folks who are outgoing commission members can't necessarily vote on that chair and vice chair for 2019-2020. So I was just curious, like, can we make an amendment on that? Because I'd like to, because that's me saying that. But like, what would that look like from a city attorney's perspective? What would we have to edit within the current rules and procedures in order to allow for something like that to happen?
It's a very good question. So again, you haven't adopted these rules yet, but assuming you adopt these rules in the form that they currently exist, one of the next items on your agenda would be to approve or to vote for your upcoming officers. So according to Section 4 of those rules of procedure, and it's Article 4, Sections 1 and 2, and those talk about electing the chair and the vice chair for your committee. What it says in pertinent part is that the chair and the vice chair shall be elected by a majority vote of the voting membership of the commission from among its members. So you're in a weird little limbo situation right now in that you're having some members leave and some new members come on. You are required by these rules that the new elected officials don't start their terms until July 1st. So you can vote in advance of July 1st. However, my suggestion would be, instead of making an amendment, I think the easiest way to handle this would be that only those members who are going to continue to be on this committee going into the next term to vote, because otherwise those people going off are not really the members of the following term, which is going to start in July 1st. So if those members would just abstain from voting, you could do it without an amendment. I think that would be the easiest way to do it. Your other alternative would be to wait to the next meeting if you so chose and allow those other people to come.
So what do we omit our members that are leaving?
How many members are we missing right now as far as in the room? Like,
We're missing Pearl, Miss Sarah.
in these plats right here, basically.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
Ingrid. One.
Yeah, Anne's not here. Because we're a new commission, you know, it's very limited institutional knowledge. But I will say, hey, we've been to these meetings, we've been here, we know who people are, and we can make an informed decision versus folks who are just now getting here, or, you know, next month, that's their first meeting they're actually attending. Voting on that, it could be a little bit difficult.
So if we do that, what he's saying is you still won't be able to vote. But we have not voted on this yet.
So we could switch the agenda around.
We could switch the agenda around. What do you suggest?
If the goal is to allow, and again, this would be a vote, or would not be able to have that same ability.
Right.
But you could always amend the rules.
You can always amend the rules.
So another thing we also want to be mindful of is the people that's not here as well, that won't have an opportunity to vote. So I'm just going to say that I think that it would be a good idea to wait. But I want to put it out there for everybody, because if we all don't agree, then we can do what is best for us right now.
I have a question. If the two people do not vote, do we have a quorum?
Well, without the new members, no.
I guess I would say that with it being summer, if we wait till the July meeting, are there going to be 4 other people who are not here due to vacations or whatever? Are we just kind of, do you know what I'm saying?
That's a great point.
Right.
Hi, I'm Tanya. I have a suggestion. Would it make sense for the people that are outgoing to make recommendations for who they believe is the best fit for chair and vice chair? And then upon the next meeting, we consider those recommendations on that vote?
That's a good idea. Can we do that?
There's absolutely no prohibition against doing that, and that is something that is commonly done in these kind of circumstances.
As legal counsel, what do you recommend the board do? Let me just put it out there. Let's just throw it on the line.
You're in an odd situation because you're still a new committee. Even though you're 1 year in, you don't have these rules in place yet, which means you have more flexibility now than you will in the future. But in the future, you're going to be bound by some rules. I think that you would probably do well to go ahead and assume that you're under some rules to begin getting in place what restrictions you're going to have for this committee going forward. I always believe that it's important to have the chair and the vice chair, who are the officers of the committee, be elected by the people on that committee, as opposed to people who are going off. And no offense to those people going off, but it would be as if you had your officers forced on you by people who were not here. So it is, I think, important to protect the integrity of the vote of that particular committee. It is the decision of this board, but I believe it's more common that the members of the actual committee serving under that term are the people who vote. But there's nothing stopping the committee from taking recommendations from outgoing members who have that knowledge.
Ms. Betty?
Is there a time limit for this to happen? Does it have to happen today or in July?
It can happen in July. No, it doesn't have to happen today.
Or could it happen in August? It's my question. Is there a time? Do we have to do?
Oh, it is a time, July 1.
Okay.
Technically, it's like a window.
And if we don't decide today, Tiffany will maintain those chair responsibilities until the July meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, which is the recommendation I was gonna make anyway, so.
Okay, so, in agreement with our vice chair, we're going to go ahead and postpone the vote until we meet again in July. Should we do a motion on that, or we just say yes?
Yeah.
Good?
Yes. Can I suggest that you mention or let folks that are not here know about the vote in advance of the meeting? So
Okay, so let's just go ahead back to our rules of procedure, because this has to get voted on. So what we're doing right now is we're just taking a look at the document, and I know you guys, you've had it for some time now, and thank you to those who was able to send suggestions. They've been made and it's been updated.
Huh? Oh, Does anybody else have copies? Yeah, I have them over here if other folks need them. Yeah, they're coming down to you right now, Dolores.
Thank you.
No problem. Are we ready to make a motion? Like, I looked at it, I reviewed it, I feel good about it. I make a motion that we vote on the rules and procedures.
We have, Ms. Betty, you have something.
So can we amend it to show what we just talked about as far as the outgoing members voting and recommendations? Can that be added to? Can we do that?
Can we do that? So Ms. Betty is suggesting that we go ahead and make an amendment to it, to the vote, so that outgoing members can have that ability to vote as well. Is that something that we can do?
And I'll make recommendations.
If that's what you would like to do on a permanent basis, my suggestion would be that you approve the form that it is and then make an amendment. Because right now, we just edits, this gives you a form that you're approving, and then you can amend it immediately afterwards to include those things.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the rules and procedures.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so our rules of procedures has been voted in.
Motion for amendment to the rules and procedures
Oh.
based on outgoing voting membership.
Anybody want a second?
Second. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we're making the motion, well, we've made the motion, and we will be making the amendment to the rules and regulation pertaining to outgoing members being able to vote.
Solid, thank you.
I would like to just put on the record that it was advised, the advisement that we did have by the city attorney's office, and just to make sure, in case anybody has any issue with that in the public, that we have been advised by the city attorney's office that we did take upon ourselves as a board to amend that, so just put that out there for in case it was any, because that issue's gonna come up in public, so we need to make sure that we say that we have been advised by legal on that matter.
Excellent, thank you.
I have a question. I think the rules we just approved require us to take public comment before we vote as well.
Snap.
So I think if we're gonna amend these,
Good catch.
we should open it for public comment. But I'm not
Tell
sure
me
how
what
we
you're
proceed
saying.
now that we already voted, but we're kind of in violation of the rules we just approved by making a motion and passing it without taking public comment, so.
What section is that in?
Yeah.
That's Article 9, Section 3.
So we just voted, and that means that it just happened, so in the future, that's the case. Is that?
Well, yeah, and also, like, just looking at it, I'm not necessarily reading it the same way that you're reading it, Patrick, because it says, the public shall be allowed to comment on matters under consideration by the commission prior to a final vote on the matter by the commission. So does that mean that, you know, when I say matters when it says matters under consideration by the commission, I'm thinking about things that fall within our purview as far as the priorities set forth in the charter. That's what I'm kind of defining that as versus like generalized rules and procedures. Does that make sense, the
Yeah.
distinction I'm drawing there?
Could we ask staff to clarify?
Sure.
Another very good question. The section that you're talking about in Article 9, Article 9, Section 3, reads specifically, the public shall be allowed to comment on matters under consideration by the council prior to a final vote on matters by the commission. So typically speaking with these kind of rules, there are groups of votes. One group being what I would call procedural motions and one being substantive motions. And generally speaking, public comment is not taken on sort of procedural motions. A good example would be a motion to approve the minutes. it'd be pretty rare that you would do that. This is not specified in the rules right now. However, you cannot write a rule that covers every possible scenario, which means that generally speaking, you follow what is called Robert's Rules of Order on these things. This, to me, falls under the category of a procedural amendment to this that I believe it's within the chair's determination if you would like to open this up for public comment or not. But I believe we can also include as part of an amendment, if you would like to have this sort of thing specified in the future, to say that all votes require the ability for the public to comment, or if you would like to limit it just to substantive votes as opposed to procedural votes.
I think that makes a lot of sense, because if we have comment for every procedural vote, we're not going to get anything done. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to be waiting for comment on everything. So I think how we just proceeded makes sense.
I agree.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
But good catch, and thank you for noticing that. All right, so the same process is for the work plan. We don't have copies right now, yes.
So, we're reviewing last month's minutes. The work plan was approved. Just, I think the purpose of this next section was to review and prioritize things, so we're not all of it.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So members, do we feel ready to go ahead and prioritize from the work plan?
I like to see a physical copy. I'm sorry, that's just me.
Oh, no problem. That's
Do
okay.
other folks feel that same way?
I agree.
I would say I had some suggestions for revisions to the work plan,
Okay.
which I believe I emailed to
Yes.
you, Tiffany. But I'm not sure, since it was already approved, if those edits were made, or if I should bring them back to the commission to discuss.
Okay, I'll lean into, he's speaking in terms of his suggestions for the work plan, and has those suggestions been updated in the plan? Because we've already voted on approving it. Well, I think when your email came out, we had approved it already
Right.
prior to, so then that would look like an amendment to that, to our work plan?
Yeah, and that's my confusion. I could bring those suggestions back to a future meeting.
Okay. Do you want to ask the attorney while he's here?
Could you just restate that for?
Yeah, so I'm saying I made some suggestions to the work plan because I didn't realize it was approved at the last meeting. I'm not sure if the document was updated to reflect those or not, and I can't recall each suggestion I made. So would the appropriate thing be for me to suggest those back to the chair at a future meeting?
As I understand it, the work plan has been approved by the committee at this point. And then in such case, yes, the answer is that it would be appropriate for you to bring those back as proposed amendments. And just as an aside, based on what we just discussed, I would consider that to be a substantive motion, which probably would warrant public comment to make any sort of changes to your approved work plan.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to make the suggestion that we go ahead and push the work plan, and just kind of working through that. Any more comments or questions just pertaining to those two pieces, the rules or the work plan? Okay, so we're just moving on. Now we're going to look at just how we want to reorganize our community engagement subcommittee, but before that, Ms. Davis.
Hi, I just wanted to speak on reorganizing the subcommittee. So with a lot of our one-year folks leaving, that was the majority of the structure of the subcommittee. And so if y'all want the community engagement subcommittee to be successful, we will need to appoint, I think, 4 people are leaving. So we'll need a good bit of participation.
And just as an FYI, like a lot of work got done, like good work got done in the community engagement subcommittee, and not just saying that because I like headed that. Like there's already a community engagement plan that's in place that has templates for what events look like, what public feedback looks like, for what engagement looks like on multiple different levels. So the next part for whoever's going to be joining that committee is not necessarily forming the idea around community engagement. It is acting on the idea of community engagement. We are past like the contemplation stage of community engagement, and now we're going to be implementing some of the things that are already listed in that plan. So like when y'all are reflecting on whether you want to be a part of that, like please think about that. And Nia, you have access to the community engagement plan, right? So if folks don't have that in front of them or aren't able to see it, she can make sure that folks get a look at it before y'all make that decision.
And just as a friendly reminder for subcommittees, all the same rules apply. So we would have to have quorum. We would have to note the meetings. Community or engaged subcommittees are expected to meet regularly as well. So I would imagine that one of the first things that this new subcommittee would be working on is this partnership with the Office of Equity and Inclusion with the documentary.
Thank you. So are there any members here today who would like to kind of be a part of that subcommittee? Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
When does this subcommittee meet?
Y'all choose.
Yeah.
So we've been meeting in the Eddington Center and the STEP Career Resource Center. I run that center, so I'm willing to keep that open to folks and create a partnership so that after I leave, space is still open to folks if y'all want to still use that space.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who's interested? And of course, we'll definitely open it up to our members that's not here today. Ms. Betty?
I'd just like to see what it's about, see that document, so.
Okay.
And,
So we'll make sure that we get it. All right. I would like to sit on this. I would like to submit myself as well to sit on the subcommittee. All right, any more discussion pertaining to the Community Engagement Subcommittee? It's a long word, long title. Okay, so we'll just continue to move on down the line with our agenda. And so we're just coming into new business. And again, I want to remind everyone that we have removed the vote for chair and vice chair off of the agenda at this time, and it is going to be just pushed to next meeting. Okay, so now I would like to open it up to two of our members to discuss the written consent report. And if you guys can just share a little bit about that. Everyone should have a draft of it in front of you if you want to just take a look at that. So this report came to us from one of our commission members to put on
Ms. Williams, who has worked chair, who has worked extremely hard on written consent. I think the reason why I feel the need to bring this up is that this is something that has been in the works for about a year. And I know we've had a lot of transitions within the city that has kind of halted some of that process. And I'm very curious as to see how far along the process is. And I would like to make a suggestion that folks who have been working on this, as well as the city manager, come prepared in August to give the HRCA presentation. And I would like to see every draft that has been picked apart from the first ever draft to the one that we have sitting in front of us today. And I want to know, once August comes, what do the folks who have been working on this, what does support look like from the HRCA?
Nice.
I would ask, is there a reason you're looking to August rather than July?
I'm looking to August because I know that everyone working on this is extremely busy, and July is
That comes right before our next.
Yeah, it does.
How long, as far as staff is concerned, given the nature of this situation and the duration that the city has been working with this, and because we are in transition right now with the police chief, okay, so he does not start working until after our next meeting. How has this individual been advised about this situation as far as written consent? Has this individual been able to process this information and look at it as far as, you know, he being the liaison on this as far as between the city, police department, and council?
I may want to defer to Peggy on that. She may be the best person to answer those questions. And I'm happy to fill in any blanks, Peggy, but I think you may be the best.
And Peggy, if you share your role with us, that'd be
I
great.
will, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Peggy Rowe, I'm the interim assistant city manager, and I was one of the members of the interview panel for the chief during that process, along with the I don't know if you know who all was on the panel, but there was a former chief of police from the city of Denver, a former chief of police from the city of Charlotte, our sheriff, Ms. Campbell, Deborah Campbell, the fire chief, myself, and one representative from the PERF, which is the organization that handled our search. And I would say probably 45% of the interview time, both in the initial interview and in the second interview, was spent on this topic. So there's a great deal of clarity about the importance of this concern, and a great deal of understanding on the part of the new chief as to how important this is.
Also, one last question. So if this individual starts working on July the 27th, how long do you think it would be from that point, from them being able to start, that it would take for them to be able to go ahead and get this policy adopted and to council the way it could be adopted by city council?
Yes, ma'am. Campbell, that is among his top priorities. Now, as to the timing, I can't really speak to that. I think we have to give the new chief the opportunity to get here, get oriented, understand his staff, the community, the city, and all the ways that we work together. But I will tell you that it is clear that is one of his top priorities once he gets here. And he also understands that it's something that's been discussed for quite a while.
Anyone else have any questions?
I'm wondering if Councilman Young could help introduce to the commission where the process around written consent started, since it started from a council vote about a year ago. I think for our commission to be able to make recommendations around this policy, it's important for us to understand the full process, whether that happens now or as part of reports from staff. I just want to make sure we're covering the full process.
I would also add that I would like to see the Racial Justice Commission from the NAACP come in and give a presentation to the board, just so that the board can be aware of the work that has been done by that commission. I think it would be a blind throw to vote on consent searches and recommendations to be made on them if we don't necessarily know exactly why we need this document. You know, a lot of people really don't understand why this document came into play in the first place. So I would like to have someone from the Racial Justice Commission from the NAACP come in and do a presentation along with Deborah Campbell, so that, and maybe Councilman Young, so that we can all have a very broad and justified understanding about why this document is sitting in front of us at this time.
Additionally, like, I like to learn, right? So I want to take a look at the process we went through with minority business disparity report and what that looked like for us versus how we approach this, because it sounds like we're approaching a new issue, right? And we're trying to become invested in this issue and invested in change, right? So I want to take some of the lessons that we learned from the minority business disparity report. And one of the lessons I learned from that experience is we need to set up a subcommittee that is dedicated to studying these issues, because when it's generalized and everybody is a part of it and there is no subcommittee, then we're having, no disrespect to presentations, but we're having consistent and constant presentations during our decision-making time, which is this once-a-month meeting. So if we were to break this down into a subcommittee and trust some members of this commission to be on that subcommittee and guide that process as far as, one, engaging community feedback and community engagement on it, but then two, crafting policy recommendations to city council on this so they can head this issue, I think that's something that we should be seriously considering, or y'all should seriously consider.
Thank you. Yes.
Madam Vice Chair, are you asking that the Racial Justice Commission and NAACP come also in August along with, is that your, I'm sorry, right, sure,
I would
understood.
suggest that that be done so that the board itself and the public as well,
Okay.
that's coming in, can understand why we are actually even discussing this
Understood, okay.
initiative. And it would give the board clarity about exactly what recommendations need to be made according to the people who are boots on the ground working on this.
And I will defer to my colleague, Ms. Davis, and between the two of us, we'll at least send out that invitation. I can't speak for those two. I would imagine that they will be available, but obviously I can't speak for them, but I can speak for the city manager's office. So, but we'll extend that invitation. Thank you.
And I also wanted to mention that, to Michael's point, that right now we're not taking a stand on this issue. It was just a suggestion, and so it was my hope to get more information to see where the HRCA could best fit. So bringing individuals to come and give a presentation is an excellent idea.
And just one suggestion I would make is, I think something Nicole said at the start of this, that I think we should make clear to staff we would like to see whatever the latest version of the policy is and any revisions that have been made to it, so that we can understand the process to this point.
And where does this document live? Because I tried to find it, and I was combing through 525 pages, and I couldn't find it.
And I spoke some with Nia about this, and I understand there was outreach to the city manager's office, and I'm wondering if we have an official copy or not of this policy.
It's not a final document at this point, so you wouldn't be able to find it anywhere on any website or anything at this point.
Well, I wanted to say thank you to our commission members for bringing this to our attention, and I look forward to definitely just kind of seeing more of how we can best support it.
And before we move on, just so I'm clear on process, because I am new, new business does not get public comment, correct?
No.
Nothing on the agenda does until we get to the public comment part.
Okay, so public comment also would allow people to discuss the written consent report that we just discussed?
Yeah, public comments, anything. They can come up, they say anything they want.
I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if public comment was only for things that we were going to vote on.
That's a great question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're in public comment.
Oh, wait, hold on, wait, one more thing on the, just one more thing real quick. Just one more thing. I really, really, really do want us to consider an investment when we start studying an issue. So when we start studying an issue, what I noticed with the Minority Business Disparity Report was we had presentation after presentation after presentation, and then once we had those multiple presentations, we struggled to create actual recommendations, right? And we still currently are struggling to create actual recommendations. So I'm wary of studying for the purpose of gaining information and then not making action on that information. And if we were to create a subcommittee, if y'all were to create a subcommittee specifically to study this issue, when you formatted or created the temporary subcommittee or work group, they would have a work group. I'm sorry, yes, you're right, I'm using wrong language. Work group. If you made a work group, they would have a clear tasks and clear goals that would start with the development of that work group and the disillusionment of that work group, right? So Nia's giving me the right. Okay. So if you pick a work group to do this, then you can say, hey, produce a report that all commission members can read, so we don't have to fill up commission time, which is supposed to be decision-making time, with presentations. And then also you can task them to create recommendations based on the time outside of this meeting they spent studying the issue. So I'm just thinking about capacity and being able to move intentionally through these issues, and also make sure that they're getting the attention and follow through and action they deserve. So when we're thinking about that, just consider it.
And so you mentioned subcommittee and work group. What
So
was
there's a
the
difference. I'm sorry, let me correct my language. So a subcommittee is standing, a work group is temporary. I'm suggesting a work group because I'd like for us to study this issue and then make policy recommendations and then move on to other issues, which is like the purpose of the commission.
I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I think that for next month's meeting, we should be considering, and hopefully more members are here, but considering that people join that work group in particular. But I think myself and the vice chair will just try to work it out to see what this group could possibly look like and how much power it can have within the commission. Would that work for everybody? Okay.
I've got a question before we move away from new business. Where are we at? We voted unanimously to recommend to City Council to provide some resources to help Rosanna Mulcahy. Where are we at with that? Are you going to report out on that, or?
That was a part of the staff report, so she can come in.
So Rosanna and Jade will be attending the July meeting, and so the July meeting will be focused on updates, what kind of support the program needs from us, and so like short-term and long-term like support, which needs from us. So that's coming up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, are there any other comments pertaining to new business? Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and move on and open it up for public comments. Come on down.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dee Williams, and I just want to thank everybody here who's leaving off the committee for your work. It's very difficult to give up your time, especially when you're not paid, to read a lot of docs and use that information to make policy, which does impact lives. Let me just say that for the interest of clarity, I'm a member of the NAACP, and let me just give you a little background on how we came to chair the NAACP Criminal Justice Reform Committee. We had worked on Ban the Box, and we got mission to pass Ban the Box, which impacted their 12,000 employees and also got a living wage while we were doing that in the negotiation. The American Association of University Women came to us. Some of them participated as well with us, and they asked me if I would chair or pull together a think tank, a model group of not only citizens for the NAACP has a national mandate, by the way, to have a criminal justice reform committee. We were out of compliance here in Asheville. We never had one. So with that, those members with the so what I did was basically use a template that I had been studying prior to everything. I'm a data person. And so I wanted to find a mechanism that would have data as a central focus. We lead with the data in everything we do. So what we did was went to the Asheville Police Department initially, and that is how this open data portal and all of the statistics with the traffic stop data. One expert is Ian Mance with the Southern Coalition of Social Justice in Durham. We brought him up. We went and got code for Asheville, which didn't really want to have a lot to do with it since it was dealing with police affairs. So Patrick Conan and his firm agreed to come in and help with that data. So I want to be fair to everybody. I don't want to take anybody's shine. So that is how it came to be. Written consent is a category that covers the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, unreasonable searches and seizures, as you know. And what it is, we found that because black folks, generally black motorists, sometimes are intimidated, cultural type situations, a lot of verbiage, just asking them, they're intimidated. And so these searches take place. Let me also say that your data, we have assembled data, and there's regular data that comes out by the Department of Justice that we use. And we, right now in Asheville, have the highest rates of stops and searches among black motorists of any city in North Carolina. And we have that data, and we maintain that data on a regular basis. Now, let me also say that the city has been great in working with us. We've been consistent about what we do. We're going to, in a status now with the NAACP where we are in transition. Hopefully we'll continue with this. I'd like to be involved in the policy aspect since we pulled together the think tank and the momentum to create this. So please don't overlook us. We do have some skill here. The other thing, too, is that we'd also like to see written consent not only for motorists, but also for pedestrians, because there are a lot of homeless folk on our streets and just not in cars. So we'd like to see that. And that was a philosophical discussion we've had with the mayor and the city managers, and we certainly want to continue on. Thank you so much, and thank you, everybody, for serving. You're very valued. Let me tell you, I know how it feels not to be valued, but
Council passed and adopted written consent, so we've been now 13 months without it being put into place. So I am here today as your neighbor to file a complaint. I have a customer complaint. My taxes are being used to harass my neighbors based on the color of their skin. It is inappropriate, and understanding that y'all are volunteers, I'm hoping that this official complaint will give y'all some teeth to be able to do the work that you need to do in advising. Thank you.
My name is Brandon Pickens. I'm a native of Asheville, North Carolina, and I've had a lot of bad experiences with local law enforcement.
Could you speak a little more into the mic?
Yeah, my name is Brandon Pickens. I'm a native of Asheville, and throughout my life, I've had a lot of bad experiences with both the sheriff's department and the local police department here in Buncombe County. I just recently got out of prison. I've been out for a little bit over a year. I'm a full-time student at AB Tech. I'm currently in summer school now. I'm in a Pathways program and planning on transferring to UNCA to get my bachelor's in accounting. But it's like ever since I've been out, I've been pretty much subjected to the same practices and treatment that I've pretty much been subjected to by law enforcement for years now. Last year around January, I want to say it was January the 21st to be exact, me and my cousin Marcus Hyde, we got pulled over on Smoky Park Highway by a deputy by the name of J.D. Lambert. He initially said that he pulled me over because I failed to use my turning signal. I got a ticket wrote for it. I mean, I maintained my innocence. It ended up getting dismissed. But long story short, you know, when he pulled us over, it was around 12:30 that day. He advised me of why he had stopped me, and he had further advised me that he had a canine dog in the back of his car, and that he had felt like he had the need to deploy that dog on my car. So he did that. He alleged that the dog alerted to the presence of drugs in my car, even though I didn't really see any reaction from the dog. So he then proceeded, he put me and my cousin in separate cars and pretty much held us for a duration of 3 to 3.5 hours while they ransacked my car. They caused a lot of damage to my car when they did it. I mean, they didn't find nothing. They even after the fact, they claimed that they had found stuff, but based on the video cam footage that we were able to get, it pretty much contradicts what they said with regards to what transpired in the investigation. Nobody was charged with nothing. We ultimately had to go into the bathroom of a local gas station and get strip searched by the officers during the conclusion of their search of my vehicle. Officer Hendricks, which I have a pretty well detailed history with regards to my bad experiences with the police department. He was the actual officer who applied for the search warrant. After everything was said and done, we went and filed a complaint with the sheriff's department because we initially felt like we were wrong, And I mean, like I said, I've been dealing with it for a lot throughout my life, and I've tried to, try to suppress these personal feelings that I have about the police and how they, conduct their duties out here in urban communities. And it's really just got to the point where I feel like I just need to speak out about it because I've been holding it in for so long. And like I said, it's still affecting me today, even though I'm trying to move on with my life and try to re-enter back into the community to be, a law-abiding citizen. But I really feel like it's not a lot of transparency with the department. I mean, because even with some of my past experiences, I filed complaints, just like I did with the sheriff's department situation. I felt like they initially tried to sweep it under the rug and try to write it off like they did everything as according to policy. We still didn't, we just had a premonition that it just didn't feel right. So, we kept kind of pushing, trying to reach out to people and get some help. We initially kind of got the help that we were seeking, but I mean, we still really got a long way to go in this process. Yeah, I don't really think like it's a lot of accountability because like even with the case that I just previously did a little bit over 5.5 years for, I went to the police department. Well, I wrote them numerous times while I was in prison, about certain things pertaining to the case. I wrote the former Chief Hooper several times while I was in prison about these situations. I wrote the clerk's office, and it's just like based on the feedback I was getting, it was like a lot of stuff wasn't adding up with that investigation, which is why I currently got a lawyer right now, Dylan. Excuse me, my mouth kind of dry, but he's working real hard to try to get some answers pertaining to that situation. It's a lot of stuff that really just didn't add up just from my personal review of all the police reports relating to that incident.
Brandon, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had the ideal situation, what would you like to see happen?
Well, like I said, I just at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not perfect, but I try to do the best that I can. And I do have rights, like, as prescribed by the Constitution, and I do know those rights, and I know them a little bit more since I've been in prison because I really didn't have nothing to do but read books. So, I mean, I started reading law books, and, like I said, it was a lot of stuff about that situation that just don't really sit well with me. And I've been trying to talk to people, file complaints, and nobody's even giving me a straight answer. I even reached out to Officer Hendricks himself, called him myself, just on my own accord, and like just to try to get some answers from him, and he wasn't able to provide me with a valid answer or explanation about certain things that transpired during that investigation. But yeah, like I said, since this thing with the sheriff's department's happened, I've been, I feel like I've been targeted by the Asheville Police Department because they know I got a revoked license. But I mean, I got a privileged license for the purposes of like doing stuff like going back to school and stuff. And then and I've fully been following the provisions of that document, but it's like, I could have somebody like, it might be after hours where I can't drive, but I gotta go run an errand or something. And I might have a friend who got a valid license driving. These same officers, they pulled me over several times, and they see these people, and they know them because they've already checked them. And it's like when they see my car, you know what I'm saying, and they know that I'm not driving and that I got a person with a valid license in the car. And it's like every time I get pulled in these stops, I got like 4 videos of these incidents. One just happened like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I got pulled over on the river where that new brewery is. Like you can go towards Westgate, and the officer had pulled us over, and I had a best friend that I grew up with. He was driving me, and they pulled the car over. And when they seen it was him, I mean, they still checked his license. It came back valid, and then he came back to the car and said he smelled marijuana. He seen me smoking a cigarette, but I mean, he asked us were we smoking weed, and I told him, I'm like, we haven't been smoking weed, and I don't smell weed in the car. And he told us that he had probable cause to search the car based on what he said. You know what I'm saying? I never gave him consent to search the car, and I mentioned that in the video that I got. It's like an 8-minute video, and he didn't find nothing. He didn't find no marijuana or anything, and then they really had to let us go without incident. But it's just like he kind of taunted me like, well, why are you recording me every time we pull you over? I'm like, because I'm just off of experience, I've had too many bad experiences with y'all, and I really don't trust y'all. So if I feel like this is the only mechanism that I can use to protect myself, and it's gotten to the point where I don't even want to drive no more. I get my friend to come pick me up in his car and run me back and forth to school, to my chiropractor meetings and everything else, because not that I'm afraid, which I do kind of fear what they're capable to be able to do to me, but that's really small compared to just the everyday hassle, you know, of going through this, and it drains me mentally. I mean, I already got mental health problems as it is. It's documented and everything, but it's just like, and they know this. I mean, they know this from when my mama used to stay on Robindale. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, they all know this. Hendricks, Lamb, all these officers, you know what I'm saying? Because I've been dealing with them all these years since I've been, you know, down here. You know what I'm saying? As a resident of this city. But like I said, I think that's really.
Could I stop you for a minute? I'm listening to you. You could be my son, and what I hear is that you had a hard time, and you have decided to do something about what you put in your brain. You said you're going to school. I'd like to salute you for that, and I wish you well. And it seems like you have an attorney that's going to make you whole for that experience that you had. I hope you find a way to keep focusing on bettering what you put up there and move forward. And my prayer is that you get this behind you. Again, I salute you for having the attitude that you seem to have.
And it takes incredible bravery to just be here today. So we really appreciate that and you telling your story.
And may I also add, as far as Mr. Pickens, I met Mr. Pickens actually through Mr. Hyatt. I actually was interviewed on this case. As you know, we all wear different hats. So I was interviewed for the Asheville Times article about Mr. Pickens' case, and I would just like to say that, number one, because you do have an open legal matter at this time, I don't want anybody to think that this is his private, personal testimony. This is his own. This is his public comment. He has a right to public comment. So I don't want anybody to misconstrue this as any type of evidence or anything else. I'd like to say that in open public, number one. Number two, is your case still open right now? Is it still an open case?
You talking about the thing
Yes,
involving the sheriff's department?
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, I know last time I talked to my attorneys about it, they told me and Marcus that they was gonna write a letter, which they had already did that, to Quentin, and he had like 30 days to respond to it, And then the last update I got was that he didn't respond to it, and that they were just going to go ahead and proceed with the Section 1983 in federal court and put it out to the media and kind of make a little bit of noise again. But that's pretty much where it's at right now. But it's still,
Have you
like I
heard
said,
anything from the district attorney's office or anything? May I ask, as far as staff, since we have a lawyer in the room that does work for the city of Asheville, is there any way that you can take this information back to the powers that be to be able to say that Mr. Pickett does need some, Pickett's need some type of,
Correspondence.
yes.
And we're just
I've
gonna
even,
do-
yeah, and I've even reached out, excuse me, I've even reached out while I was in prison. I've reached out and wrote Todd Williams numerous letters, like pertaining to the stuff regarding the discovery and all, as provided by all the police reports. And I never really even got a response from him, not one bit. You know, I kind of try to reach out to him.
If I can just, if you can come and just kind of put your contact information here.
Okay.
And then if you could just come speak to that briefly, and then we're gonna have to move on.
Okay.
This way we can follow up with you.
I would like to hear from the
Yes.
city attorney if we can about this.
Yes, absolutely. So the city attorney's office, which I lead, is specifically prohibited from doing any representation of anybody. Now, I'm not saying we would represent him in this matter, but there is a thin line that we must walk very carefully in terms of providing any sort of legal appearance of representation of people, of the public, since we are specifically limited to representing the city of Asheville in our capacity. So the issues that he's having going through the local justice system is dealt with through the county system, which we don't have any direct connection with. So we're limited in what we can do for a variety of reasons from the city attorney's office.
I guess my question would be, since he's having, because this is a police issue as far as the complaint with the officers in itself, is there any way that we can make it to where that, moving forward, that Mr. Pickens, especially if his complaints have not been adhered to or seen, as far as, is there any way that we can ask the police department to go ahead and take a look at to make sure that we know that Mr. Pickens' case is there?
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely something that can be done through city staff. And obviously there are avenues for people to deal with any complaints about police process, but certainly city staff is available to provide those particular requests and complaints through the process to be addressed.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something. First and foremost, I want to say thank you because there's power in our story. And what is making me very angry right now is that I can only imagine the people who never tell their story. And as the HRCA, the Human Relations Council, I think we all know that there is an issue with policing in Asheville when it comes to Black people. And as someone who sits here, I cannot continue to move on without asking this commission to make policing a priority. Because the elephant has been in the room for a very long time. And my biggest fear is that we have another person beaten or we have another person lose their life. And you say that you're recording these incidences. The last thing I want is for you to reach for your cell phone and for them to do what they don't need to do. And we all know what that is. And so as a commission, I think policing does need to be a priority. You mentioned APD several times, and I just think that is in our wheelhouse. I know we're not gonna make a decision today, but that's what I'm sitting with. And just again, thank you, because there's power in your story. And I just want to honor that for taking the time out of your day to come here and share with us. I appreciate that. Because your story is also the story of so many people who are in our community. So thank you.
And also, oh, sorry.
Hi, thank you very much for sharing your story. That was deep and heartfelt. I'd like to ask, is there any collaboration with the Police Advisory Commission that the HRCA is doing? And if it is possible to have somebody from that commission present in these meetings so that they can get an inside and in-depth and in-person experiences to the realities of what's happening out there?
So from the May minutes, I reached out to CPAC and we'll be meeting with their vice chair. And I think that's a great idea. But one thing that's important is that when we come up, when we want to see things happen, we really got to be that person to drive that. Because our time is pushed in so many different directions that we can't take in and on everything. But I feel like the things and the visions and the feelings that as members that we always have ample opportunity to spearhead those things as either a work group or even as a committee. My question still pertaining to this is, would this draft protect individuals like Brandon, or would this be more harmful? And that could be to individuals who spoke on the written consent or even to commission members here. Would this protect the rights of individuals or black motorists? Yes or no?
Written consent? Let me just say, pardon me for walking and talking simultaneously. Written consent would be used to, first of all, let me just back up a moment. From what we've seen, the culture of policing, and we all know that it came from slave catching, the modern system. I don't want to get into a whole lot of that. But a lot of police officers, not all of them are bad, but most are inappropriately trained, and they're culturally insensitive. And we have the data that shows that. Okay, so written consent is no more than, shall we say, a deterrent to the interaction in the first place. Because chances are interactions with someone like Mr. Pickens, a black male, and we have the data to show that, it exacerbates the tendency of most usually white officers and some black ones to use force. Okay, the other thing is when an officer is duty bound to produce a written piece of a paper that he actually got considered, that he knows he's going to have to document, and then if he's procedurally, and I don't want to get into Wren and all of that other stuff, con law, constitutional law, but they have to have a reasonable suspicion that, and they have that to search. But when they realize that they're going to be held to account and there's going to be a written paper trail, rather than cajoling and saying, oh, you don't mind if I search your car, do you? And then folks succumb to it, there's another level of accountability. It is a deterrent. And our whole thing is to save lives. And if those encounters are reduced, the disparities and racial profiling will be reduced. And that is why we are so insistent on written consent and to honor the Fourth Amendment for most people who are of color who do not know their rights, number one. Number two, culturally, and I think it's a carryover from slavery, we think we must acquiesce to any verbal command. And of course, we see people in uniform. And then we acquiesce, but not everybody in uniform is there to protect us. I'm not saying that all officers are bad, but certainly we need protection from the ones who are. And by the way, all of this activity with open data, written consent, and all of these low-cost, no-cost measures were a result of Jai Lateef Williams' death. We started it then, and then when Johnny rushed, we were continuing on. And so the whole point is to stop death, injury, all of that. And that's the only way that we know is written consent, is to hold folks accountable. It does save lives, yes.
I just want to know, when you say we, are you referring to the Criminal Justice Reform Committee?
The NAACP Criminal Justice Reform Committee, yes, that is our national mandate, and that is what we have been working on all of this time, and we remain steadfast in our commitment to get a policy that will work for people and will save lives and stop the racial profiling that is apparent in the Asheville Police Department. We have double the rate that even Charlotte has.
Just briefly, I appreciate all the comments from different commission members, and as a commission member that is transitioning off, I want to emphasize, we can thank people for their stories. We can create a bridge and create opportunity for people to speak on it. But if we don't act in our capacity as commission members, then those things ring hollow. So I think it's really important to make a commitment that's tangible. And I would re-emphasize, what Tiffany just brought up earlier around the creation of a work group or the creation of a subcommittee, because that codifies our study of this issue. And I would even, make a serious recommendation to not form a work group, actually form a subcommittee, because a subcommittee is standing instead of a work group, which is temporary. So that's something to really be thinking about. So we can say the words and thank people for what they're doing, but the action and the honoring for people coming in is creation of those committees and use of the resources that are available to this commission. So as a transition and off member, I just want to make sure that's emphasized to all the current members in this room.
And as a new member, what does it look like to want to make the decision to lead a subcommittee on policing?
Oh, we would definitely want as many members as possible here, and then we would just kind of open it up to take a vote to kind of create the subcommittee.
I'd like to suggest that the city staff members create a one-sheet document that lists the steps that someone would take to, if they had a complaint. So I'm sure there are steps that they should take. It would be helpful to have that document so they would know exactly what to do, that as a resource. So if someone could prepare that, that would be great.
I also wanted to just remind us of our role as HRCA, and it is a little bit unfortunate, but we are just a soundboard for complaints. So we can only lead them in a direction. We cannot go fighting for individuals when they bring complaints. So I know.
And that's one of the reasons why we also, Nicole, I love what you said. Yeah. But one of the things that we had decided when we first came on board with the HRCA back in the beginning was that we cannot focus on any one issue, because if we focus on one issue and make one issue a priority, it kind of it puts everything else to the wayside. We want to be able to have a board, because we are talking about equity and inclusion that does deal with the other issues that formulate. So I do agree that policing is of course, I'm the number one proponent about policing on the board, I believe, other than you at this time, and Patrick. But I do believe that there's a way that we can use our power. What power we do have, we can use that power to be able to instigate a change that we have not seen, and we have got to be the change that we want to become. So I believe that we can work with these other groups and some other entities to be able to bring, not necessarily a justice, but give people a working footbridge they can walk across to be able to get to where they need to go.
And then also, my bad, just briefly, how you fight is policy recommendations you make to the council. So like when you say we can't say something with a complaint, you can make a policy recommendation, and that's using the tools that you have. So I encourage y'all to leverage that and use those tools. Sorry.
You good. My name is Nicole Williams. Hello, everyone on this panel. 3 days ago, me and my 9-year-old, my 5-year-old niece, and my 2-year-old nephew was pulled over by the Asheville Police Department, guns drawn, because they told me that my vehicle looked like the suspect's vehicle in a robbery, because the car that they knew was just a silver car. No make, no model, no VIN number, no reason to really pull me over, but you ran up on my car and my child. I had to then turn around to my 9-year-old and explain to her why she couldn't move to reach out to hug me. Why I couldn't personally turn around in my seat to comfort them, to make them feel better about the situation that we were in. Now, how unfair is that for me? Because I own a dance team in the same community that raised over $90,000 for Christmas that we gave to Evelyn and ABCCM. Not $1 did my kids keep for themselves for uniforms, equipment, a place to practice. We gave every dollar we had back into the city that we live in. For the same city to make me feel like I'm not a nobody or a nothing. That hurts my feelings. I can hear people like him stand up here and say, oh, well, we try. We can't do anything. We can only push this issue as far as it can take me. What about us? The ones who fight for our tax dollars, that get up every morning at 5 a.m. and we go to work to feed, to provide for our kids. Why should we have to tell our children that they can't walk down the street by themselves because they're black? Why do I have to tell them that when we walk into a store, a police officer feels the need that because the color of my skin that I'm going to steal from the same store that I came to spend my money in? Why would I buy a newspaper every Sunday from the Asheville Citizen-Times for them to not even care about the color of who I am? Everyone in this town says that we're wrong if we fight back. We're wrong if we say something. We're wrong if we stand up. But who's the voice of us? The mayor, the governor, the police commissioner, we put you guys in office. Our votes count. While y'all sit down on your house horses and look at us like we are nobody and nothing, remember that everyone on this council we voted for. We voted for you to be our lawyer, sir. Do you know that? So am I not important? Is my voice not heard? Because right now I feel like it's not. Like I had to give up my job to come in here to speak because I don't want to be silent anymore. I want something done about the police. I don't want to have to explain to my child why we can't walk down the street and be normal. Why she can't go to a playground and play. Why I can't go to a swimming pool or she can't walk in a store and browse like everyone else. I know, no offense to you guys, you will never understand what we go through because you're not our color. And I don't fault you for that, nor do I make it feel like this is your fault. But I do fault you when you don't stand up and you see that it's wrong. I do fault you when you know what we go through and you guys turn a blind eye. No, I do fault you every time we come in here and we make a complaint and you tell us that there's nothing that you can do. No, I fault you for that because we all need to work as one to make this society work. No one is better than the other. We don't ever come in here and feel racism to you. Our kids don't have to be afraid of y'all when y'all go down the street somewhere, but we have to be afraid of y'all. And I don't feel like that's a fair trade or a great thing to have to do to teach my kid that. I sat here and I listened all day and I heard you guys make decisions and I heard people say, oh, we can't fight behind a desk. Ma'am, I disagree with that because you're the color of my skin. Tell me why you can't fight for me and you're the same person as I am. Why can't you speak up for me when you're the same color as I am? But that's the same question I turn to you and I ask, why can't you fight for me even though you're not my color? Why can't you fight for me even though you know it's wrong? Why should I have to fight for myself? Why should I have to be afraid to die? When you walk out your house, you're not scared to die. You're not scared to go into a store. And do you know that you guys are the ones that actually steal the most? Did you know that? Did you know that you guys are the ones, while y'all call her gangbangers and druggies, that are really on drugs? But we're the ones that are subjected to this just because we're black. And we can't be no better than you are or no less than you are because we black. Like, I feel like that's so wrong on so many levels that I really don't want to be silent anymore. You can take it how you take it. You can like me or not. But that is my truth, and I'm going to stand in it. That's all I wanted to say.
I mean, I just want to... If you can give me your contact information too, please. Are there any?
Thank you, Nicole. I'd like to share something.
Thank you.
Michael, with respect to what you were saying in regards to having so many issues that we're looking at and being a new member, I was wondering, there are issues that are more pressing than others, it seems. And it seems that a way to approach these issues is to essentially, it looks like we really need to do a triage of these issues and approach the most important issue, and then everything else falls into place. Since this is a brand new committee or commission, what is the most important thing that we need to do and take care of that thing and make that our agenda? and fight for it tooth and nail, no matter what. Because one person's coming in and bringing in, I've had experiences with APD personally. 2 people coming in, that's a pattern. And, you know, I know other people on this board have had issues with that. And we're all coming together so that we can do something. And if we're not triaging our issues, then how are we going to move forward?
Well, one thing I wanted to say is the work plan is the plan and the framework, and all of the issues and information, not specific to Nicole, but the same issues is in that work plan. And I would love to invite you to take a look at it and then kind of bring some things to our attention via email.
And also, just as an aside, because I am transitioning off, like, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, when we first picked Minority Business Disparity Report as the issue to focus on, that came from commission members saying that I want to focus on this particular issue. Now, in contrast, you know, we have people come in to the commission and filing specific complaints. And I know we have a policy that's forming around complaints, but if the purpose and the spirit of the formation of this commission is to transition policy recommendations from the community, then I think we need to look at a prioritization of what's coming from the community in contrast to issues that have been brought to us by commission members. So, and I think subcommittees is a tool to use, because subcommittees can take deep dives into specific issues while also leaving the other membership of the committee time and bandwidth to address the public and address other concerns that might be coming to us. So I strongly suggest that the future commission members and continuing commission members use the tools that are available to you and take a serious look at the work plan and also the community engagement plan. We worked on that for a year as well, and that's another tool to use to gather data for policy recommendations.
We have about 2 minutes. Councilmember Young?
Before y'all finish out your meeting, I just wanted to give you a little heads up on the draft policy that you have in front of you. Of course, it's not completed, but in last year's May council meeting where this all transpired, there were some recommendations that were made by council to the then acting city manager, Kathy Ball, that are not included in your draft. You may want to go back and explore those from that council meeting. I'll be sure to send out the minutes of that council meeting and video to y'all. But one of those were that written consent also was afforded to somebody's person, meaning the bag, things that like your backpack, your pocketbook, things like that. So if you're walking downtown and there isn't a probable cause to search you, that would also apply to your backpack and your belongings and things like that. That was not included in the draft policy. Also, the reason this has been, in my opinion, that it's been held up for quite some time is 2 or 3 words in a policy can change the strength of a whole policy in itself. If an officer has, in my opinion, if an officer has probable cause can be subjective, okay? But how does that hold up if you go to court, okay? That's another story. So in, Part E of this draft, the first couple of words, when safe and practical, in my opinion, changes the whole way that this whole written consent policy is kind of crafted. So when you say when safe and practical, officers will obtain written consent prior to searching a vehicle, well, that's very subjective. So that is a very, in my opinion, easy out to not have to have written consent. And then when you go down to Section 4, any exception to utilizing the consent search form for safety or practicality reasons, which goes back to when safe and practical, must be articulated in a written report and included in the corresponding traffic stop. So, in my opinion, if you've got probable cause, your probable cause can't hold up in court. But when you put the words when safe and practical, you could always say, well, I feared this, or this came up and this made me feel like it wasn't a safe and practical time to ask for the consent to search your vehicle. You know, if you come to me and I know that I have a right to say no, that it is my right that I can say no, and you have to put a form in front of my face and say, all right, you got the right to say no, sign this form, and I say no and I give you the form back, that's totally different. But when I say, well, I don't think it was safe and practical for me to be able to do that based on me doing my job, then written consent kind of gets in the gray area, and then you're faced with the possibility of down the line, you know, many of these written consents not actually happen in the way that they should. Mrs. Williams made a good point when she came up here earlier and stated all the different reasons why we need written consent. And in my opinion, it's not the fact that we just have a policy in front of us that says, hey, this is written consent. I would advise you all to really look at the language in it, because one or two words can change the whole strength of the policy in itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could,
Thank you for being here. My name is Scott Owen, and I just wanted to go on record as saying that I would like to see the city as concerning searches of people and their property, that they property that were laid out by city council, and that those procedures be implemented by their police department, that there be no warrantless searches whatsoever as given directed to us by the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. I don't want to take up any more of your time, so I just want to go on record in support of the city council's resolutions. Thank you.
I just wanted to express on the record that I share Councilman Gunner's concerns about small language like when safe and practical, make a big difference in how the policy is utilized by the department. Also, I want to highlight the discussions. The most recent CPAC meeting was around people having their backpacks searched. EPD doesn't have any data on how often that even happens, and written consent is one way we can collect data around that. And also, I would encourage all commission members to look at those council minutes, because there were other policies passed as well, to deprioritize regulatory stops, and also restrict when consent can be requested in the first place, restricting that you can't ask for consent just based on someone's prior criminal history or suspicious movements. So there's a lot of policy work that is unfinished, and our commission could play a role in seeing these through.
I would also like to add that we need to be, and Tiffany, we had a conversation with Ms. McDowell from CPAC. I think that as a commission, we need to also bring CPAC in on this, because this is their onus, this is what they deal with. And they are the police development committee on the last CPAC meeting, and one of the biggest issues, as well, was what Patrick said, is how Asheville deals with community engagement, and how they treat people in this community, and how they react to people in this community. That was pretty much 90% of that discussion at CPAC at the last meeting. I would suggest that you also go to the next CPAC meeting, make your concerns vocal there as well. Asheville Police Department is in the room, as well as other city liaison, and people who deal with that issue, those issues specifically. Make sure you file complaints. And you have gone to the city of Asheville and filed a complaint to the Asheville Police Department, so that can be put on record as part of the data. Because numbers count, and the only way we can tell what's going on with our community is when we see those numbers, because they respond to. Also, I would advise, as just someone who works, I'm taking off my board hat and putting on my activism hat on this, and advising you, be vigilant, and do not back away. You need to follow up and continue to follow up.
Because I don't think about just me, I think about our future kids and the kids in our
Absolutely.
Like, I don't think that, like, I was explaining to her earlier, we were sitting and watching a bunch of kids playing outside. They were black, they were white, they were Mexican, they were swimming, experimenting. And I was on her like, you see, my point is, racism is not like something you just know. Like, these kids are playing with each other, and they had no idea of the black to white thing. But I was on her like, now when
vice chair, and I also attended other board meetings. I know people in this room right now saying this is not how usual board meetings go with the city of Asheville. I don't believe in cutting anyone off who has any valid complaints. I've been like this in city council. I do not like cutting people off when they have honest, because we are servants to the people. So I believe in being always available to the people for whatever they need to say. So I will never cut off anymore. I never make a public comment. I'll cut off the board member before I cut off the public. So I just want to say, I know people are going to say this was a long meeting, but sometimes things need to be discussed. And I also think you put a time on people's feelings and emotions and their tax dollars. So I do want to say, I know some people are going to say, this people is not usually what you see, but this board is not usually what you see within the city. And we do have the ability to run this board as we see fit. And so, I do want to keep this motive open. If you need to leave, you can leave. But I don't ever want us to be able to cut people off when they come to us with something, because that's a problem in our city. People always get cut off when they have a valid complaint and it never goes any further. So I really do want to take time to appreciate Kim Roney, Mr. Owens, and Ms. Williams and Mr. Pickens for coming here and telling the truth. I really do appreciate, this time being spent in this board being amenable to these folks, because these folks are our responsibility. Okay? And Mr. Young's responsibility, Mr. City staff responsibility. So I just want to take the time to say this is the action that I want to see every day.
And I would add a comment. I think it's real critical. Like I said, this situation is really going on since I was in the ministry. So I mean, it's a really fluid situation, and a lot of emotional things get involved, and people actually do get the courage to speak up about these issues. So yeah, like she said, sometimes people gonna kind of, you know what I'm saying, they get overwhelmed with, finally being able to get it out, and they're just gonna get it out. Because I know for me personally, that's like a good release.
I don't want you walking out this room for any more traumatized than you already do.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So that's why I'm doing
And I think the traumatization thing, like you say, I know when y'all see our record, y'all think that we just incredible. But I don't think y'all understand, some of us really do try to perform, we do try to be nice, we do try to be open. How can we not have a criminal record if we can't pull it up with a small line of things?
Sister, let me tell you something. I have a criminal record too.
You know what I'm saying? How do you expect us to get up out of the stereotype that y'all see when y'all see us, and y'all are still putting these things on us? Like, you can't expect us to be like, oh, well, we don't do that, but we get pulled over by the police for nothing. I've been personally stopped in this year alone almost 20 times for nothing. Not one ticket, not one arrest, not one probable cause of really why they was pulling me over. But just because I was black and I was in a neighborhood that maybe they felt like I wasn't supposed to be in, I got blew out and pulled over.
Well, CPAC is every first Wednesday, and I want to just kind of highlight what the woman said, because this is going to be a long road. This is not the beginning and this is not the end. So continue to push. We have your contact information. I'm personally going to stay in contact with you, because it's not just about words. It's about the ability to listen, to hear you, and to take action, and then to keep you safe. So after this comment, then we have to end the meeting.
Possible to submit my videos. Nicole, she's talked to some people that's years ago, the same experience.
We're just the only ones not scared enough to not say nothing. Anybody else is like, if they come forward and they make complaints, they're going to be harassed more than we already are by the police. And I don't understand why y'all are harassing us in neighborhoods when we can't be safe. There are real crimes out there that really do need our attention.
know y'all are trying to wrap up, I'll try to be quick. And y'all for coming out and speaking the truth. This board is different. You mentioned this board is different. That's why it was set up. It was set up to be different, not to be cookie cutter like everything else in the city. So the way that this is happening, what these things are playing out is exactly what you all are supposed to, in my opinion, be entertaining. Secondly, I would say that in case you all don't know, prior to this board's inception, boards and commissions have recommended that we dissolve. This was prior to y'all coming into the play. Dissolve CPAC, but the reasoning behind that was so that you all could possibly take on that onus, or possibly even make CPAC subordinate of HRCA. I just want to come and tell you as a member of boards and commissions that if you all chose to do that, if you all made a recommendation to the council to do that, or to boards and commissions, I believe that could be arranged if you all actually wanted to take on the powers of CPAC or have CPAC work and subordinate capacity to HRCA. Again, we were at a council meeting ready to dissolve CPAC, but it wasn't for the reason of simply dissolving CPAC. It was for the reason of this group here would be a better place for those types of capacities. And CPAC can still be ran and still have people appointed to it as it is now, but it would be subordinate to this organization or whatever you all would choose. So just throwing that out there in case you didn't know, if that's something that you want to recommend or would like to think about. Boards and commissions is still open to that. So that's it.
All right, so we are coming to a close. So we have a motion.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.